Okay, welcome. How's it going, Mary?
She's
Pretty good, thank you. I'm just listening in today.
Okay, well,
I'm,
just listen in, and if there's any questions, just let me know.
is it
All
just,
right,
it's just
so
me?
go ahead.
Is it just me here? Besides, am
So
I,
far, yes,
okay. All
but
right.
we're recording it, so maybe we'll send it out to the masses. I'm going to pretend that I'm shooting a pilot show for TV.
All right, great. Thank you.
All right, so I was asked to do this just to kind of bring kind of a catch up on AI and academic dishonesty. I'm on the dispute resolution board, and we are beginning to see cases around AI and academic dishonesty. So part of this is to give some of my latest observations, and then also to just reaffirm what I've been given in a prior research on prior workshop on this, which is that AI does suck in that it presents challenges for assignments, particularly if we teach online. And it does open up questions around academic dishonesty of whether students are using it. But in a way, it is still an opportunity to model integrity and accountability for students. And I'm going to basically recommend that a process that faculty can use in determining whether or not a student has used AI as a way to actually teach them academic integrity. Because I think the assumption is that they all are just going to come in expecting that they have it. And I think that it's a trait, I think it's something that can be cultivated, where what hopefully they can learn, because I've now brought several students. I've seen that about, I think in the past year and a half, three I've revealed academic dishonesty. Only one of them was AI, but the other two were for other reasons. And I modeled accountability, which is the ability to own one's mistakes, acknowledge them, accept responsibility, and make amends. And in my meetings with the students, that's what I really focused on. And it really brought them to a kind of a learning moment in accountability. And this is something that no AI detection tool is going to do for us. The AI detection tools may make it easier for us to discern if academic dishonesty has happened, but this modeling accountability is something that we need to do as faculty. Okay. One thing I wanted to say is that for all faculty who are really worried that your assignments are susceptible to AI, I just want you to know, and that the workload questions that brings up, and just the concerns about that. I want you to know that you're not alone, and that that's really my job, Kyle's job, all of our jobs uh, to help faculty and support when this happens. So if faculty are worried and are suspecting AI, particularly in online classes, come to us. We can help. We can look at your assignments together and see, okay, how could this be tweaked? How could this be tweaked so that use of AI is less? Or how could it be tweaked to maybe introduce using AI to the students in a way that's okay? What we know from faculty development literature is that one-on-one consultations really achieve what workshops fall short of. Workshops are good to get kind of general information out, but the real growth in teaching happens one-on-one when the faculty's materials are individualized. So consults are really the most single effective way. And by consult, it's like, come to CTED or come over Zoom. Let's look at the assignment together. Let's look at how we can rework this or tweak it, and so that it works for you, so that you don't have to worry about students using AI, or you can start embracing the use of AI given whether or not that assignment is appropriate. So that's one thing I wanted to share, is that get that message out that You don't have to do this alone. This isn't something that you have to kind of take on, particularly during the breaks, because I'm here during the breaks. So for today, 3 main points on the latest. 1, AI detection tools remain unreliable. We have not found a sufficient tool yet that really is both valid and reliable indicators of academic dishonesty happening. So we don't want to rely on them alone to confirm if students used it, if they committed academic dishonesty. 2 is we want to create course policies that are clear. And then we want to enact those policies repeatedly across the semester so that students know what is okay, what is not okay in terms of each assignment. I would say that the syllabus is a beginning, but it is not sufficient on its own. We also want to create policies that are not excessive and unreasonable, such as you're going to fail if you use any AI at all. I really want to recommend against that. We want to have policies and practices that are in a language that is not threatening, so that the student does not feel undue anxiety around academic dishonesty. And then this last piece is when academic dishonesty is suspected, it really is an opportunity to teach and foster integrity. And it can become a real teachable moment for the students. So let's begin with number 1. So research is ongoing, but the detection tools that are out there remain unreliable, and we don't recommend that you rely on them alone to confirm that academic dishonesty is happening. Speaking as a member of the Dispute Resolution Board, we do not find the tools sufficient in the absence of all other evidence to make a decision on whether academic dishonesty has occurred. It's not okay for us that we are basically been giving nothing but unreliable tools without any other evidence at all. That puts us in a very difficult position. And so we want to make sure that if there's evidence of academic dishonesty, that it goes beyond just the tools themselves, okay? So the studies are ongoing. We've done a pilot here, I think, on them, but to the best of my knowledge, and I've been checking in with Kyle and John Lynch, and we've been checking in with the other CSUs, there's no single detection tool that has been identified as valid and reliable, meaning that beyond reasonable doubt or beyond uncertainty, that it is determining whether use of AI has or has not happened. Okay. Is there anything you want to say about that, Kyle?
Yeah, and I think the only thing I would just add is that while the paid tools do give an increased reliability, the benchmark is not really being met in terms of what we would be comfortable with regarding false positives.
Right.
And so when you end up with these false positives, you're putting students at risk that have not actually utilized AI to be, under threat of sanctions or losing part of their grade or something along those lines.
So the question was, what tools do we have available at Sonoma State?
Sonoma State has not adopted any AI detection software tools as part of its software package, and doesn't encourage the use of them for reasons not just because of the reliability, but also about like student privacy, like student intellectual property rights, things along those natures. So we're just not recommending for the use of those things. What we're recommending is a more holistic approach about having conversations with students, having an ongoing dialogue with students about the use of AI, so that students are aware for each individual instructor, for each individual assignment, what is and isn't appropriate.
Right, and I also will add, Barry, I did a little search of teaching centers across the country in terms of detection tools, and I am not seeing a single winner of being adopted. Like, so, I was trained at Penn State, and I am not seeing them adopt any kind of tool because of the false positives. And because just it does, there still has not been one that has risen above the others that that really can be a reliable detection. Okay. Now, I'm not saying not to use your own. Even, so if there are ones that you would like to use, I'm not saying not to use them. And I also hope that they do become more reliable. I hope that maybe ones can be developed that reduce the false positives. But that said, the AI detection tools alone do not supplant the more holistic process that I'm going to be talking about here of determining whether or not academic dishonesty has happened. And alone, they shouldn't be considered sufficient evidence. There's other ways, and that we'll talk about in a little bit, that can bring you closer to sufficient evidence. What's most important is the meeting and the conversation with the students.
The one thing I'll just add here too, is
Yeah.
thinking about this, hopeful future where there is an AI detection that we have that is reliable. Thinking about the way that Turnitin has evolved over time, in the sense that Turnitin, you get some numbers, and faculty oftentimes are just subjectively using that number to make a determination about academic integrity on an assignment. But I think the more powerful use of that Turnitin style tool is the student getting access to that report and the student learning about what is being flagged as needing citations, things like that, that there's an educational piece to that Turnitin.
Absolutely,
report.
because a lot of students don't want to commit plagiarism and are very confused around, well, what counts as my own words? And that is actually really complicated,
right?
And so Turnitin could be a tool for them to learn.
And my hope is that when AI detection does evolve, that it does evolve into a space where it is student facing, in the sense that the student understands what is and isn't their work. And as part of what it is, when they're utilizing an AI tool, how much of the work is theirs, how much of it is AI, and getting an understanding about what that appropriate use might be.
Yes, and what we really want to just recommend is the more of a dialogue you have between the instructor and the learner around this, where you say, hey, for those of you, I know many of you are actually anxious that you're plagiarizing, let me know. Okay, ask questions. Okay, the more you get that kind of approach with the students, and less of the threats of all AI is banned. If I find out that you use it, you're getting an F in the class. No learning is going to happen from that. And when you do suspect it, it's going to be much more likely that the student is going to try to deny it. Okay.
Mary, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, I think this question of is AI detectable, such a difficult question, because what does a student do that it rises to the level of detectability, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's say a student has sort of consulted AI, but then written the paper on their own, right?
Yes.
Not incorporated any, not plagiarized, so to speak, from AI. But it's, they've done research and they've included AI in their research, right? And so then I just think that students are going to use AI. We need to teach them how to use it appropriately, ethically, and critically.
Mm-hmm.
And then what does detection actually mean? This is so messy, slippery.
You're thinking about it in the correct way, Mary. You really are. Is that it is messy, and where you're going are the better conversations. And so, if you want to bring your assignments and say, I don't know how I'd use AI to use this because I didn't grow up with AI. What could they do? Or You know, what if we had something where they use AI as brainstorming to just get ideas for their paper? Or maybe they use AI at the end where they upload their paper and have it reviewed for conciseness and omitting needless words or professional tone. You know, the more, and then telling the students that's okay. That's okay. That's where we want to go.
This is
Versus the, banning it all together, because your point is very well taken. What about things like Grammarly? What about things like spell check? I mean, all of those it just becomes very, very fuzzy when you draw these kind of arbitrary lines.
Yeah, I agree. What I've started doing is I've added an extra question in my assignments to have students explain what was their writing process with this assignment, and if they used AI, how did they use it, and how are they ensuring that they're not plagiarizing?
Do you have what are the kinds of things that they write? I'm curious.
Well, some of that. So I've just started this semester with this. Sometimes they say, well, this assignment, you gave us all that we needed. This assignment didn't lend itself to using AI, which is kind of what I'm trying to do. That's one approach I'm taking. But also they've said, well, I used, Grammarly, or I wrote it and then I had AI look it over and give me some feedback on it. And so, but that's pretty much the extent that I'm getting at this point.
Yes, and that's also a sign that good things are happening. And the really good thing that's happening is when they said, well, I didn't really need to use it because you gave me everything I need. Take the reverse of that. When students report having used AI from some of the research, it's because they are confused. It's because they're either not clear on the assignment or they're not clear on what's expected of them. And either they're overwhelmed or they're not clear. And so they go to AI because they're panicking. So does that make sense? Yeah. Jackie, did you want to say something?
But hello.
Hi. No, okay. All right. So no tool. So again, Sonoma State has not adopted a detection tool for these reasons. And here are some of the problems with the sole reliance. You already mentioned one, Mary, is, well, what does detection mean? Is it that, they used it to proofread and that's plagiarism? Did they use it to just generate ideas versus they used it by putting the prompt in and got the assignment, spit out at them? That we want to avoid. Okay, we do want to avoid that. But so one of them is it's really not clear on how much academic dishonesty is really happening. Another one is the false accusations, is that there's a lot of false positives. Okay, so we have false positives where then the students may get a sanction, such as the F for the class, and then the class isn't offered in the spring. And then they're graduating late, or maybe not at all. So the sanctions, particularly when they're really punitive, can really impede progress toward graduation for something that the student may not have even done. Okay, for something that the student may not have even committed. Okay, and second, I've had students come to me who have been accused in their classes of AI who they absolutely did not do it. And several of them said it was a humiliating, deeply painful, because these were high achieving students. These were high achieving students, that it was a humiliating, deeply painful experience. And that no matter what they said, and no matter what evidence they provided, they were not believed. And that really took a toll on them. It took a toll on their self-efficacy, and it took a toll on their mental health. And then the sanctions themselves, I find the blanket F in the course to be excessive and unreasonable. And it appears to be what I see in most syllabi, okay, is that, pretty much any use of AI is an automatic F in the course. And I really want to invite people to think differently, okay, to think differently, that, that the Fs really should be reserved for very serious forms of academic integrity, such as, I think I gave an F once in my career, and it was a student who got a copy of my test, got the answers to the test, and then disseminated them to the entire class before the test. He knew it, he thought it was funny, and he sent it out to all of the students, and one of the students told. Okay, that student failed the class. And that, in my view, was appropriate. But the vast majority of these other cases are just not approaching that. Yeah. So what we want to do is create and consistently reinforce AI policies around AI, and with teaching practices that are clear, that are without threats and unreasonable and excessive sanctions. We can think of academic integrity as modeling these things, both in that we reflect them out. If we reflect out honesty, if we reflect out basically being saying, this is what's okay, this is what's not okay, and this is why. If we reflect out trust, saying, if you tell me now that you did not use this and that I am mistaken, I will trust you. I need also you to be trustworthy in that if you did do this, you tell me, okay? These are acts of integrity, and these are things that we want to create and model for the students. Taking responsibility, respect for both yourself and the instructor and the work, fairness, okay? So what we want is the clearer the policy, the better, and the more we follow up on the policies. Like it sounds like, Mary, with every assignment that you do, you check in with them. That's what I mean. The syllabus at the beginning of the semester, not enough. Not enough, because that's not going to be instructive for them in the 11th hour when they're doing the assignment. Okay, so here are some of my recommendations. Yeah, please, Mary.
Yeah, I think this is somewhat like plagiarism in the sense that it's a teachable moment, right?
Yes.
And that students, for us, it's clear as faculty, we understand the process of how you research and write, but students don't know that, and so they don't even really understand necessarily what plagiarism is, and where it's a fuzzy line, and so I think this is an opportunity to help them understand how they can use AI ethically and in helpful kinds of ways. And so I do think I appreciate your approach here, because in fact, I think we need to teach in the classroom itself these tools.
Right. Just basically, if you're making a statement about academic integrity, the very least we can do is define what integrity is. And what it is, rather than, what is a violation of it. Okay. The violation should be made clear in terms of what's being violated is honesty. What's being violated here is trust. I am trusting you follow my instructions so that the work is as good as it can be in terms of where we use AI and where we don't. By you violating, you're violating my trust in you, okay? And making that clear to the students, because integrity is a skill. Integrity is a skill set. And at, 18, 19, 20, they're still figuring these things out. And I'll say, even for the strong violations of academic integrity, where they put the prompt in and they did what was not okay. They put the prompt in, that too, rather than just you failed, dispute resolution, but tell me more about why. Can you tell me more? Okay, you were stressed. That makes sense. That's not unusual. Can you accept that what you did was not okay? And can you make amends? Okay, showing that the mistakes are part of the learning, that the mistakes are where the hardest lessons are learned. And this is an opportunity to model that. Yeah, right. So make your policy clear. If you just write use of all AI is banned, that is not clear. Because AI has a very broad, I would think of it now as an umbrella term. Would you agree with that, Kyle?
Yeah, definitely.
That it's an umbrella term that comprises everything from putting in a prompt of an assignment and having the output spit out to Grammarly and spell check. Okay, so make it clear. And in terms of your own course, these forms are okay. These are green light. We want you to do these. Okay, these are yellow lights. I will give you instructions on how to use these with the prompts. These are a hard no. And here's why. Okay, and I would have that. The syllabus is the starting point, but on the first day of class, and better yet, when an assignment is due. When an assignment is due, bring those back, because that's when it's going to be most relevant to them. Yeah, Mary.
Yeah, I think we're entering a period where we don't even know that we're relying on AI anymore. That are like Google will spit back
AI output,
AI results, right? And unless you take steps to dismantle that. But so I think even the question of having the student reflect upon if they're using AI or not, how do they know they're not relying on AI driven, content?
Well, that could be part of the question of the reflection is, how do you know? What are you worried about? What are you worried about? Are there things that are unclear right now? Spoiler alert, there probably are. They are for me too. Yeah, saying something like that.
We're in this together, I think, really.
Absolutely.
With students, as we also explore ethically how to use AI in our own research and writing.
Yes, absolutely. And really modeling what we, the not okay for me is using AI to skip over critical thinking. Now, AI can be used to foster critical thinking, that's for sure.
Yeah.
We know how to do that. But you want to also convince them that, no, you're shortchanging. You're going to lose the learning. You're going to lose the neural connections that will be built from critical thinking by having something do something for you. Okay. The more, again, there's that dialogue between the instructor, the learner, and the work. Yes, please.
Yeah, at the last AI session that CTET had, I forget who said this, but they brought up that it's important to teach students why they're learning what they're learning. And I don't know, somehow I just don't find the argument as convincing that they're losing out on learning or something. That is, it's sort of vague. I have an assignment due, I'll never use this again, but if the assignment incorporates why it's important to learn this material in the way we want them to learn it, then I think there's a chance for more buy-in.
Correct. And that's where your learning outcomes come in. So for example, one of my assignments is basically they take masculine role norms and apply it to men in their lives. of whether or not the men uphold or reject those masculine role norms.
Mhm.
And I'm saying this is training you in the learning outcome, apply course material to lived experiences.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
see? And why would you want AI to do that for you?
Mhm.
Yeah, so that the learning outcomes is where that can happen. And by the way that I define busy work is high labor, low learning.
Mhm.
So busy work is when they're doing a lot of work and the perceived learning that you mentioned, Mary, isn't clear to them.
Mhm.
The purpose of the assignment is either unclear or it's falling short.
And just to piggyback on the busy work,
Yeah.
we did a AI use survey that went out to students and out to faculty, and it was really enlightening to hear the student responses, because when they were talking about when they are kind of considering places to use AI, it's when they feel like the assignment itself is busy work. And so if they're not feeling connected educationally to the assignment, then because they don't feel like it's being presented in a way that has meaning, then they're feeling like that's a place to go to AI for some of this.
Absolutely. And that's a very, one of the practices that I recommend is you ask them, did this feel like busy work to you? I ask them for every quiz.
Wow.
I have at the bottom of my quiz, I have, please rate the difficulty of this quiz. Too easy. I could have studied less and aced this. This felt like busy work. Too hard. I wasn't able to show what I learned, or questions were worded in a way that didn't match what I learned. Okay. 3, just right. And then you ask them if they feel like, if the students are saying something feels like busy work, I take that really seriously, because they may be correct. They may be correct. Yeah. Okay, so again, throughout the course, because AI is new to all of us, lay out, these are called boundaries. What is okay, what is not okay, and why? Wherever you stand. So you can say, you know what, it's okay to use AI for idea generation. In fact, I'll model that in class. It's okay for you to put the assignment into AI when you're done and have it do a proofread. It's not okay to put the entire prompt in and have AI do the assignment for you and pass that in, okay? And so you want to do that, okay? And then again, avoid the threatening statements. And so for examples, on my syllabus, I will say something like, if I suspect, here's what's okay and not okay. If I suspect that AI is used, we will first have a meeting where we will talk and I can learn more. If it has been determined that AI was used and it was intentional, then the sanctions include a reduced letter grade of the course. Okay, so I make sure that the sanctions are, I think, reasonable given the offense committed. Okay. I avoid things like the automatic F. Okay. More on sanctions. This is for academic dishonesty more broadly. This is also for cheating, really anything. Is that you want to frame the sanctions in terms of appropriate accountability and taking responsibility. This is the consequence for being dishonest. This is the consequence for the plagiarism. Okay, and there really must be some form of accountability. I don't think it's okay if a student admitted that they use AI to basically, especially if they knew what they were doing was not okay, for you to just let that go. Okay. Accountability, we want to think broadly, okay? And what it looks like depends on a range of factors. The first is intent. Did they know that they were doing it? So like Mary, you mentioned The students who have no idea that they committed plagiarism. That shows that intent really, that there was no intention, that it was out, that, and that I would take into consideration, and I wouldn't give the sanction would be a verbal reset. Okay, the sanction would be, okay, we're just going to clear this up, and verbally together, we're just making sure that now it's clear. Versus, I put it in, I put it into AI, the entire prompt. Yes, I knew that that was not okay. Okay, that is problematic. And that I would consider either a reduced letter grade for the assignment, maybe redo the assignment, it depends. Okay, or maybe a failed grade on the assignment. It really depends on the scope, the type of assignment, whether, you know, whether the assignment was a really important midterm or really, or linked really strongly to a learning outcome. Okay, and the type of violation, whether or not they're sharing their stuff with other students, it really depends. So here are just some examples of accountability so that we can think more broadly than the automatic F. I like, you know, verbal warning. I don't like the word warning. I call it a reset. And this is when they didn't really know, okay? Or they used AI on some part that they knew was not okay, but they were stressed in the 11th hour. Then I call it a reset. Sometimes I'll have, you know, I'll have them put it in writing, but usually I'll just have the meeting and call it a reset. Sometimes there's a written agreement. This is when we go through dispute resolution board, and it's documented, because we do want to document when plagiarism has happened with dispute resolution. Okay, so this could be through dispute resolution. Sometimes it could be a failing grade for the assignment. Sometimes it could be a reduced course letter grade. And then again, the failing grade for the course really should be the most extreme cases where not only did, this is how I think about it, did they compromise academic integrity and dishonesty for just themselves or multiple people in the class? That's very serious. Okay, when you're enabling and encouraging other people to be dishonest and giving them your tests, then that's quite serious, and there needs to be a count. Yeah. Okay. So here are some things just to look for outside of the detection tools, and either of you, if you have other examples, let me know. The big telltale one that I think we're all learning is the citations are inaccurate. Okay, and I also want to recommend that the more you link things to what is taught in your class in terms of citation and the assignment itself, the easier it is to detect AI. So for example, on some of my take-home quizzes, I will be asking about, as described in class, give an example of hostile sexism. And then I will get something where I'm like, wait a minute, that's not hostile sexism. Then I kind of know that they went outside of the class material. So if the citations, the date, the journals are inaccurate, that's a sign. The content, like I just mentioned, is inconsistent with the way that it was taught in class. If all of a sudden you're questioning your area of expertise and like, well, wait a minute, this is not anything I said. When did I say that? Or where was this in one of the articles? That is a sign. And then mismatch or inconsistent with other work. If all of a sudden the writing level is such that it is so polished, and you, for whatever reason, said that AI was not okay, then you want to be curious about that. If they're not able to describe their process in writing the assignment, and they're not showing the knowledge base that the assignment measures, I'll say that again. If they're not showing the knowledge base that the assignment measures, that's a sign that they used it. Okay. So let me just pause. Any questions about that so far? Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the slippery areas for me is when it's written so well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, but I know the student did not write that,
Yes.
you know,
Mhm.
and that I don't know what to do in that case, right? Uh, and so I've been thinking about, do I sort of have an in-class writing sample that they do on the first day of class? So I get a sense of what their writing is actually like.
Mhm.
And then when I see assignments that are using words, like sometimes I see words, it's like, these students don't know these words.
Yes.
And I'm not talking down. I'm just, 30 years of teaching. I know what
Mhm.
students know.
Yeah.
And so I'm concerned about that. And I do tie my assignments to my specific texts, that they have to demonstrate knowledge of the
Mhm.
texts.
Yes.
Um, but this writing factor, one of the things I've also started doing is, particularly for my online classes, is to have a 15-minute consultation with the student.
Mm.
And this gives a chance to raise questions about this as well. But I don't know if you have thoughts about this.
I do. One thing that I do is I will normalize that writing doesn't have to be perfect. I will normalize for the students and say, you are learning writing as a skill. And I do expect you to proofread your writing. But if I am seeing a level of writing that I don't see in your other work, I am going to be suspicious of that.
Mhm.
And so that is something to keep in mind, that you don't have to have it completely figured out. Okay, especially if you're banning AI for the use of proofreading. And I will have students lay out. So when I've suspected that and I've seen that the writing doesn't match the perceived skill level, asking them process questions helps.
Mhm.
Tell me what went through your, tell me how you approached writing this paper. What did you do first?
Mhm.
Because good writing does not just come out of people.
Mhm.
So the students who really did do it, they said, well, I began by writing and I began by kind of laying things out, and then I did the topic sentences or things like, then you know. But
Mhm.
if they say things like, well, I just started writing, then I say, I'm having a hard time believing this, and we're heading toward
Mhm.
um, issues of trust here, folks.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
yeah. And so that's what I would say there.
Thank you.
Okay, and that's something that you would say in the meeting, is say, I am seeing a disconnect with your baseline work and this writing. Help me understand.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm concerned, right, with that you're going to come up to a point where you can't AI your way out of something you have to write. And
Yes.
then what happens, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Is that this is why it's not okay to use it,
Mhm.
because writing is hard. And the gap between what's floating in our heads to what's on the paper and clear and readable to others might as well be the Grand Canyon. And it takes thinking and time and effort to make that schism
Mhm.
smaller.
Mhm.
And AI won't do that for you.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. So when academic dishonesty occurs, use it to teach accountability, which is that you own your mistakes. You own your mistakes, you admit them, and you make amends. Okay. You acknowledge that you've made a mistake, you accept the responsibility, and then you make amends. This shows integrity. And I even say that to the students. I will say, this is an opportunity for you to be honest with yourself, to be honest with me, so that you model integrity. It's an act of integrity to own your mistakes, and people make mistakes. Okay. What if I said that it's okay that you were stressed? What if I said that it was okay that you were panicked? What if I just said, though, what was not okay is that you used AI, and can you accept the responsibility for that? Which in this case will be a reduced letter grade. I have found this approach really, really effective. Okay, I'm not gonna, this is in the slides, and Kyle, can you send out the slides in the chat at some point?
Well, yeah, we'll send them out in the chat, but also this is all going to get posted to the website, both your slides and.
Okay, this is the basic procedure for academic dishonesty, is that you begin with the meeting with the students, you provide them with your evidence, you have the paperwork ready, and then you make sure that it gets to the student conduct officer. I don't want to go through those in the interest of time. And then if the student will not sign the form, that's a sign that there's a breakdown in trust. And so the dispute resolution board will then take that up. Okay, so do you have evidence or suspicion? Remember that given the detection tools are unreliable, they alone should not be considered evidence, and therefore you should not tell them such. You should not say, I ran your paper through the detection tool. It shows this percentage. Therefore, I have evidence of academic dishonesty. I do not recommend that you say that because of the false positives. And it's crucial that you do not skip the step with the students to dialogue about this and jump straight to the sanctions. That is what we're trying to avoid here. Okay. You begin with inviting them to Zoom or to office hours, and then you present with the evidence. And the more that you embody curiosity, the more that you embody, I want to help, I want to understand, the more you will de-escalate what could be a very tense meeting. Okay? But it's very important, and the sooner after you have become suspicious, the better. I wouldn't wait a week. Okay? Consider this a priority of like in the next couple of days. Okay? And the meeting is where you want to model academic integrity so that in your framing, the student can either feel comfortable refuting the suspicions if they didn't do it. I've had so many students say that they just took the sanctions because they said no matter what they said, they wouldn't be believed. That is a problem. That is a problem. So the student should feel empowered and comfortable to be honest and to be able to say, yes, I did this, this is why. It's because I didn't know. Or yes, I did this, I knew, I was stressed, I had to work, I was nervous about my grade. Or to say, no, I didn't do this and here's why. Let me walk you through my writing process. Okay. In every case that I've seen, the students are either scared or overwhelmed or reactive and defensive. They fall into one of those, regardless of the veracity of the claims. Okay. So because I've been a witness to many of these where I've assisted, I've had students become reactive and angry and defensive when it was actually that they did not do it. Okay. And some of them scared or overwhelmed when they did do it. And then they were scared to admit. Okay. So we want to embody that kind of, what we're talking about right now is integrity. And here, honesty goes a long way because that's an act of integrity. Okay. Was there a question? Okay. So the approach to the meeting is to de-escalate. Okay. Move it from accusatory, punitive to one of, well, integrity, fairness, professionalism, responsibility. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Here's an example of a conversation that I had with a student, and I've kind of just changed it to, just kind of adapt to this workshop, but you can just take a look at the language. This is the last thing I have for today. So first, I normalize that this is a hard conversation. I normalize that they're probably nervous or tense. We're going to talk about something that's uncomfortable. We're going to talk about something that may feel hard, but we're going to talk about something that's really important, which is integrity. I need to tell you that I have suspicions and potential evidence that you used AI to complete part or all of your take-home exam. Here's why I'm saying this. Citations were incorrect. Some are not the actual citations. And then watch their body language. Okay. Additionally, you met several classes, okay, where the material was taught and your responses, this gets at your issue, Mary. Your responses reflect an advanced understanding of the concept. Your responses reflect an advanced understanding of a concept that you were not present to learn in class. And then I even say things, can you see why I'm a little suspicious about this? Okay, and again, I'm embodying curiosity and concern rather than you did this. This is the tribunal. And then I lay out why integrity is important. Okay, there's no education or learning without integrity. And I want you to know that in this space, honesty is far, far more important than whatever grade you get on this assignment. I've said that several times. Honesty and standing in your truth and accepting responsibility for mistakes that you make, because we all make them, is more important than this grade. Please help me fill in my gaps. Okay. So these are just some things that you can download and use in your conversations. It de-escalates. And then I say, what matters to me, this is why students tend to cheat. Stress, anxiety, time management, going through a hard time, sleep deprivation. Mm-hmm. Whatever the reason, what matters most is honesty and taking responsibility. Mm-hmm. If you did not do this, I'll listen. Mm-hmm. Walk me through so I can understand. Mm-hmm. If you did, talk to me about what happened. Yeah, go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think being curious and it's like, what happened here, right?
Yeah.
Kind of walk, like you said, walk me through it.
Mm-hmm. What happened here?
Yeah.
And oftentimes there's tears. Oftentimes there's a lot of life stuff going around.
Yeah.
And that's when I say, well, right now you're showing integrity and that matters. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I take that in consideration, by the way, Mary, with the sanction. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You admitted that you were stressed, that you were sleep deprived. How about you redo the assignment? Okay.
I think AI could be a stress reduction strategy, right? That it's there's just so many things going on, and it's a shortcut, unfortunately, sometimes students take. And I had a student who, it was funny, it was a Native American course, and we focused on a particular version of one tribe's version of this myth, but the student wrote about there was a similar story from another tribe, and I detected that they were talking about a different story, so that's how I knew that they had used AI. Mm-hmm. And so so we explored it, and the student wrote the paper again without using AI this time, but also the highest grade they could get was a C. I felt, they should not have a chance at another
A. They should not get an A. Yeah, absolutely. And how did that land with the student?
Yeah, that felt fair to them, right?
Exactly, because I've seen that again. I've said, I'll have students when they do this, because the other thing that happens is this aligns them with their own values.
Yeah.
Unless they value dishonesty, and some do, but they're rare. It aligns them with their own values, and they end up saying, no, this is fair. This is fair. I think a C is more than fair. You're being more than reasonable. That's a sign that far more was learned than whatever the assignment was measuring here. Yeah.
Well, I think it's kind of, in some ways, punishment enough that they have to redo the assignment.
Absolutely. Yep.
And they have to go through that process that, of generating the material, right? And also I give them like, all right, how can we make sure this doesn't happen next time?
Right.
Do we need to meet together and go through, the process so that
Right.
you
Or
understand, right?
you were stressed,
Yeah.
You could have, if you have a policy of like, request an extension.
Right.
Could you give me another day?
Troubleshooting. Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I so value your comments, Mary. You're very much ahead of a lot of the instructors on campus. And it's just really, I've learned from you listening.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm learning from you. I really appreciate this. And I feel like we need to have these discussions and these cases so that, we can learn from each other and because we are learning this at the same time, right?
Yeah.
We're all trying to figure this out and how to be allies with our students, with the best parts of our students, that want to succeed, that want to do well, but they're dealing with incredible stress. And I also want to acknowledge that we need to take this into account in terms of faculty workload too, because this changes the nature of our workload in some ways.
It really does. That's why I began with that slide of come to CTED, so that you don't have to do this all alone.
Yeah.
Because I would say, I just came from a conference where we talked about AI in the classroom. And it's the online classes that are especially being hit hard.
Yeah.
It's really leading people to have to just retweak and sometimes redesign entire assignments. And that takes a while, and that's what teaching centers need to be here for, so that, we can do some of the at least battering around ideas together. Yeah.
I think the direction I'm going to go in at this point, I'm thinking is of designing assignments, particularly at Sonoma State where we have access to AI now, of having students see what AI is saying and to use our course material to analyze it and critique it, and challenge it, correct it, give examples, or
Yeah, like,
so that
what did AI miss here?
exactly,
What
right?
did it get right?
Right, exactly.
Through the faculty learning community that we've had last year as well as this semester, a lot of that has risen to the surface as the way to really get your feet wet with some of this is having those having that activity of utilizing AI in the classroom with your students to see where it misses the mark and to really kind of talk them through how it misses the mark. And it kind of reminds me of, when the internet was rising up and really we had to start teaching students the difference between like primary sources and secondary sources and the usefulness of those. We're in a similar space now. And I think to what Matthew's really been hitting home on with being able to have these conversations, there's, if nothing else, even if you're not going to be integrating AI into your own classroom, you have to have at least enough of an understanding and done enough of your own research independently to be able to have a meaningful conversation with your students, so that when they say that, oh, I put my draft in and I asked it to revise for grammar and for spelling, that you understand what that means because you've had the experience of seeing what that does. Or you said, I put in my notes from class that day and had it generate an outline for me, and then I used that to build out you have to have some experience with the tools to be able to have those conversations.
Or to have your own policy.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Well,
This has
thank
been
you so much
great.
for coming.
Thank you. This has been awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, and I'll send you the slides.
Okay, would love
All right.
that. All right, thanks.